The smell hit Detective Sarah Connor first, metallic, sweet, wrong. She pressed her sleeve against her nose as she stepped through the splintered doorframe of the small rental house on Maple Street, her flashlight cutting through the suffocating darkness of the February morning. "Jesus Christ," whispered Officer Jake Barnes behind her, his voice barely audible over the crackling police radio clipped to his vest. What they found in that cramped bedroom would shatter the illusion of safety in Millbrook County forever. The teenage girl's body lay twisted on blood-soaked sheets, her dark skin pale in the harsh beam of Connor's flashlight. But it wasn't just the violence that would haunt Connor's dreams, it was the pregnancy test clutched in the victim's lifeless fingers, 2 pink lines still visible through the plastic. 16 years old. Pregnant. And very, very gone. Connor's radio crackled to life. "Detective, we've got Sheriff Williams en route to the scene. ETA 5 minutes. Something cold crawled up Connor's spine as she stared at that positive pregnancy test. In a town where everyone knew everyone's business, where secrets were currency and power protected its own, some truths were more dangerous than others. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number asked Williams about his Tuesday night drives. Connor's blood turned to ice. She looked around the crime scene again, her trained eye catching details that suddenly felt significant: the expensive jewelry on the nightstand, the designer clothes in the closet, luxuries no teenage girl from the project should have been able to afford. Outside, gravel crunched under heavy tires. Sheriff Williams had arrived. And Detective Connor was about to discover that in Millbrook County, some badges came with a license to destroy lives. Detective Sarah Connor had built her reputation on 2 things: never backing down from a fight and never trusting anyone in a uniform. At 34, she transferred to Millbrook County from Atlanta PD after a corruption scandal left her career in ruins, not because she was dirty, but because she'd refused to look the other way. The victim was Keisha Martinez, though her friends called her Kiki. 16 years old, honor-roll student at Millbrook High, worked weekends at her grandmother's hair salon on the south side of town. She lived with her grandmother, Elena Martinez, after her mother disappeared when Keisha was 12. Elena had called in the missing person report when Keisha didn't come home from her job at the mall Tuesday night. But Keisha Martinez wasn't just any teenager. She was the kind of girl who lit up a room, who talked about becoming a lawyer, who believed she could change the world. Her best friend, Destiny Thompson, would later tell investigators that Keisha had been different the past few months: secretive, flush with cash, wearing expensive clothes she claimed were gifts. Sheriff Robert Williams commanded respect in Millbrook County. 48 years old, married to his high school sweetheart Patricia for 23 years, father of twin boys at the state university. He'd been sheriff for 12 years, won every election by landslides, and was considered a pillar of the community. Williams coached Little League, attended every church function, and his campaign signs promised safety, family, faith. But Connor had learned to read people, and when Williams walked into that crime scene, she saw something that didn't belong: recognition. For just a split second, when his eyes landed on Keisha's body, his face showed not shock or professional detachment, but the kind of grief reserved for someone you actually knew. "Hell of a thing," Williams said, his voice steady as he surveyed the scene. "You got any leads yet, detective?" Connor studied his face in the harsh fluorescent light the crime scene techs had set up. "Just getting started, Sheriff. Victim's name is Keisha Martinez. 16 years old." Something flickered across Williams' features, so quick she almost missed it. "I'll assign Deputy Richards to assist you," he said. "This kind of violence, we need to catch whoever did this fast before the community gets spooked." As Williams turned to leave, Connor called out, "Sheriff, did you know the victim?" He paused, his hand on the doorframe. "Millbrook's a small town, detective. I know most of the kids around here, at least by sight. Keisha was a good girl from what I heard. Real shame." The words sounded right, but Connor had spent 15 years listening to lies. Williams knew more than he was saying. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number, check his cruiser's GPS logs. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. to midnight. The autopsy report landed on Connor's desk 72 hours later like a bomb with a lit fuse. Dr. Amanda Hughes, the county coroner, had worked through the night to expedite the results. She was 8 weeks pregnant, Dr. Hughes said, sliding the file across Connor's desk. But that's not the worst of it. Connor opened the folder, scanning the technical language until she found what made her blood run cold. The injuries, they are not random violence, Dr. Hughes continued. Someone beat her systematically, methodically. This wasn't a crime of passion, detective. This was elimination. The pattern of bruises told a story Connor didn't want to believe. Keisha had been held down, struck repeatedly in the abdomen first, an attempt to end the pregnancy. When that failed, the violence escalated. The final blow had been to her head, delivered with something heavy and metallic. Time of elimination: between 10 p.m. and midnight on Tuesday. Tuesday night. The same Tuesday mentioned in those anonymous texts. Connor's phone rang. Elena Martinez, Keisha's grandmother, was at the station demanding answers. When Connor found her in the waiting area, the 60-year-old woman looked like she'd aged a decade in 3 days. She was scared, Elena said, clutching a tissue. Last few weeks, Nieta, she was different. Jumping at every sound, looking over her shoulder. Someone was threatening her. Did she tell you who? Elena's eyes filled with tears. She said if anything happened to her, I should tell someone about the man who drove the white car. The one who picked her up after work sometimes. Connor's pulse quickened. White car. A police car, detective. She said he was married, had kids. Said he promised he'd take care of her and the baby, but lately. Elena's voice broke. Lately she was afraid he might hurt her instead. The pieces were falling into place with terrifying clarity. Connor excused herself and walked straight to the parking garage, her hands shaking as she scrolled through the department's vehicle logs. Sheriff Williams drove a white cruiser. Unit 1. And according to the GPS records she wasn't supposed to have access to, Unit 1 had been parked on Maple Street, the same street where Keisha's body was found, for 47 minutes on Tuesday night. From 10:15 p.m. to 11:02 p.m. Right in the window of Keisha Martinez's time of passing. Connor spent the next week walking a tightrope between investigation and self-preservation. In a department where Williams was beloved, where half the deputies owed their jobs to his recommendations, openly accusing the sheriff of ending a life would be career suicide. But Keisha Martinez deserved justice. She started digging carefully, quietly. Williams' Tuesday night pattern went back months, always the same route, always ending at locations that didn't appear in any official reports. Connor cross-referenced the GPS data with missing person reports, unsolved cases, unexplained passings. The pattern was chilling. 3 other young women of color had gone missing in Millbrook County over the past 2 years. All teenagers. All last seen getting into a white vehicle. The cases had been classified as runaways, investigated half-heartedly, then filed away. But Connor discovered something else. Each girl had withdrawn significant amounts of cash from their bank accounts in the weeks before they disappeared. Money they shouldn't have had. Destiny Thompson, Keisha's best friend, finally agreed to meet Connor at a coffee shop across town. The 17-year-old looked terrified, constantly checking over her shoulder. Keisha was seeing someone, Destiny whispered. Someone older. Way older. She said he was powerful, that he could protect her, get her into any college she wanted. Did she tell you his name? Destiny shook her head. She called him Bobby. Said he had kids her age, that his wife didn't understand him. Classic stuff, you know. But the money was real. He gave her hundreds, sometimes thousands. Connor's heart pounded. Robert. Bobby. Sheriff Williams. Destiny, I need you to think carefully. Did Keisha ever mention being afraid of this man? The girl's eyes filled with tears. The last time I saw her, she said she was going to tell his wife. She said she was tired of being his secret, that she wanted him to choose her and the baby, or his family. She thought the pregnancy would force his hand. Instead, it had sealed her fate. Connor's phone buzzed. A text from Williams, need to see you in my office. Now. Her blood turned to ice. How much did he know about her investigation? She walked into the sheriff's office to find him standing behind his desk, his face granite hard. On his computer screen was a freeze frame from the coffee shop's security camera, Connor and Destiny at their table. Detective Connor, Williams said, his voice deadly quiet. I think we need to have a conversation about appropriate investigative procedures. You're fishing in dangerous waters, Williams said, closing his office door with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. Chasing conspiracy theories about good men won't bring that girl back. Connor forced herself to meet his eyes. Just following the evidence, Sheriff. Evidence? Williams walked around his desk, and Connor caught a glimpse of the service weapon at his hip. Like harassing grieving families. Like accessing GPS records without authorization. Her stomach dropped. He knew everything. I did my homework on you, Connor. Atlanta PD kicked you out because you couldn't tell the difference between investigation and obsession. You see corruption everywhere because that's what destroyed your career. Williams leaned against his desk, casual but predatory. Keisha Martinez was taken out by someone in her life, probably a boyfriend, maybe a drug dealer. These girls, they get involved with the wrong crowd, make bad choices. It's tragic, but it's not some grand conspiracy. The pregnancy test proves she was sleeping around. Could be anyone's baby. Connor felt bile rise in her throat. She was 16. Old enough to make adult mistakes. The callousness in his voice confirmed everything Connor suspected. This man had looked at a 16-year-old girl and seen not a child, but something to be used and discarded. Her phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number, Storage Unit 247, Pine Valley Storage. Key is taped under her car's bumper. Connor's pulse spiked. Keisha's car had been impounded as evidence. Sheriff, if you'll excuse me, I need to follow up on some forensic reports. Williams smiled, but it never reached his eyes. Of course. But detective. Be careful. This county can be dangerous for people who don't know their place. 20 minutes later, Connor knelt behind Keisha's impounded Honda, her hands shaking as she felt along the bumper until her fingers found a small magnetic box. Inside was a key and a folded piece of paper with an address. Storage Unit 247 was in Keisha's name, paid for with cash for the past 3 months. Connor's heart hammered as she turned the key. The metal door rolled up to reveal a treasure trove of evidence that Williams thought he'd hidden forever. Photographs. Dozens of them. Williams and Keisha together, at restaurants, in hotel rooms, in his personal vehicle. The images told a story of a relationship that had started when Keisha was 15. But the photographs weren't the most damning evidence. In a showbox, Connor found bank receipts showing regular cash deposits into Keisha's account. All traced back to a private account in Williams' name. Next to the receipts was a pregnancy test, not the one found at the crime scene, but an earlier one, dated 6 weeks prior. And underneath everything else was a journal. Keisha's journal. Connor's hands trembled as she opened to the final entry, dated the day before Keisha's body was found. He's not the man I thought he was. When I told him about the baby, he didn't look happy, he looked scared. Angry. He said I was going to ruin his life, his family's life. He offered me money to take care of it, but I can't do that. This is my baby too. I'm going to tell Patricia Williams the truth. She deserves to know what kind of man she's married to. Maybe when it all comes out, Bobby will realize we could have a real life together. Or maybe he'll hate me forever. I'm scared of what he might do. But I'm more scared of keeping this secret anymore. Tomorrow, I'm going to call his house. I'm going to tell his wife everything. Connor closed the journal, her vision blurring with rage and grief. Keisha Martinez hadn't just been silenced, she'd been taken out before she could expose the truth. But her destroyer had made one crucial mistake: he'd underestimated a young woman's determination to be heard. Connor stared at the evidence spread across her apartment floor, knowing she held enough to destroy Robert Williams and knowing it might get her eliminated before she could use it. She'd photographed everything in the storage unit before carefully returning it exactly as she'd found it. But now, alone in her apartment with copies of Keisha's photographs and journal entries, the weight of the truth felt crushing. Williams wasn't just a predator, he was a calculating one. The relationship with Keisha had been carefully groomed, documented, and funded. The pregnancy had been the one variable he couldn't control. Her phone rang. Elena Martinez. Detective Connor. They are saying Keisha was involved with substances. That she was the lady of the night. Elena's voice broke with pain. How can they say such things about my baby? Connor's blood boiled. Williams was already spinning the narrative, painting Keisha as everything she wasn't to deflect suspicion from himself. Elena, that's not true. Your granddaughter was being taken advantage of by someone in a position of power. I'm going to prove it. But who will believe us? He's the sheriff. People here, they trust him more than... Elena's voice trailed off, but Connor heard the unspoken truth, more than a black teenager from the wrong side of town. After Elena hung up, Connor tried calling the state police, the FBI, anyone who might listen. But Williams had been smart, he'd cultivated relationships throughout law enforcement. Every call Connor made seemed to circle back to his friends, his allies, his network. The anonymous texter had gone silent. Connor began to wonder if they'd been scared off, or worse. Her apartment felt like a trap. Every car that drove past, every footstep in the hallway, every creak of the old building made her jump. She'd installed additional locks, bought a security camera, started varying her routes to work. But fear wasn't her biggest enemy, despair was. At the station, Williams treated her with professional courtesy that felt like a mockery. Deputy Richards, assigned to assist her, seemed more interested in reporting back to the sheriff than investigating the case. The other officers avoided her, sensing the political winds. The local newspaper ran a front-page story about the troubled teen found lifeless, complete with quotes from anonymous sources about Keisha's dangerous lifestyle and bad influences. Williams was quoted extensively, promising to clean up the streets and protect our children from those who would exploit them. Connor wanted to scream. But the worst blow came when she returned to her car after another fruitless day of investigation. Her windshield was spiderwebbed with cracks, and tucked under her wiper was a single photograph, one she recognized from Keisha's collection. It showed Connor herself, sitting in the coffee shop with Destiny Thompson. Someone had been watching. Someone knew exactly what she'd found. That night, Connor sat in her apartment staring at her service weapon, wondering if she was brave enough to see this through, or if Williams was right, maybe she was just a failed detective chasing shadows that would ultimately consume her. Outside her window, a white police cruiser drove slowly past her building. Unit 1. Connor's salvation came from an unexpected source, Patricia Williams. The sheriff's wife called Connor's personal cell phone at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, her voice barely above a whisper. Detective Connor. Oh. I need to speak with you. Not at the station. Not anywhere he might find out. They met at a church parking lot 20 miles outside Millbrook County. Patricia Williams sat in her car, sunglasses hiding her eyes despite the overcast morning. Connor could see her hands shaking as she gripped the steering wheel. I know about the girl, Patricia said without preamble. Keisha Martinez. Connor's heart stopped. Mrs. Williams. Please. Just listen. Patricia's voice was hollow, defeated. I've known about Robert's activities for 4 years. The young women. The money. I told myself it was just affairs, that as long as he came home to me and the boys. She pulled off her sunglasses, revealing a face ravaged by sleepless nights and terrible knowledge. But when that girl turned up gone, when I saw how he reacted, I knew it was different this time. I knew he'd done something unforgivable. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out a cell phone, not hers, Connor realized, but a second phone, a burner. I found this hidden in his study. The messages. Patricia's voice broke. The threats he sent her when she said she was going to tell me about the baby. Detective, my husband didn't just have an affair with a child. He took her life to keep her quiet. Connor's hands trembled as she took the phone. Message after message from Williams to Keisha, starting loving and possessive, then turning increasingly desperate and violent as Keisha threatened to go public. The final message, sent the night Keisha was found, was chilling. You made your choice. Now I've made mine. Why are you showing me this? Connor asked. Patricia looked out at the empty parking lot, tears streaming down her face. Because I have sons, detective. Because someday they might have daughters. Because I can't live with myself knowing I could have stopped this. She handed Connor a key to his personal safe. In our bedroom closet. There are other things there, photographs, videos, evidence of other girls. I don't know how many. I was too afraid to look. Mrs. Williams, this is incredibly dangerous. If he finds out, he's going to find out eventually. But maybe if you move fast enough, it won't matter. Patricia started her car. Detective. That girl. Keisha, she called our house the night she passed. Around 8 p.m. I answered. She was so polite, so scared. She said she needed to tell me something important about my husband. Connor's blood ran cold. What did you do? I told Robert someone had called for him. I thought it was work. Patricia's voice was barely audible. I gave him her number. I might as well have loaded the weapon myself. Connor had one chance to get this right. Working with Patricia Williams, she orchestrated a plan that required perfect timing and nerves of steel. While Williams was at a county commissioner's meeting, his alibi confirmed by multiple witnesses, Connor would access his home safe. Patricia met her at a back entrance to the Williams house, her face pale but determined. 20 minutes, Patricia whispered. The meeting never runs longer than that. The safe was hidden behind a row of Patricia's dresses, exactly where she'd said it would be. Connor's hands shook as she turned the key. Inside was a horror show that made her stomach lurch. Photographs of at least 8 different young women, all minors, all black or Hispanic, all in various stages of undress or distress. USB drives labeled with dates going back 5 years. Burner phones with messages that ranged from manipulation to outright threats. And in a manila envelope marked insurance, Connor found something that made her knees buckle: photographs of city council members, judges, and other law enforcement officials in compromising positions. Williams hadn't just been a predator, he'd been building a network of complicity through blackmail. But the most damning evidence was a video file on the most recent USB drive. Connor plugged it into Patricia's laptop with shaking hands. The timestamp showed Tuesday night, 10:23 p.m., right in the window of Keisha's passing. The video showed Williams' personal car, not his police cruiser, parked outside Keisha's rental house. Williams himself was visible entering the house at 10:24 p.m. The audio was muffled, but Connor could hear voices rising in argument, then Keisha screaming, then silence. Williams emerged at 10:58 p.m., alone. Connor's radio crackled. All units, we have a 10 to 54 at 1247 Oak Street. Sheriff Williams requesting immediate backup. Patricia went white. That's here. That's our address. Through the window, Connor could see Williams' cruiser pulling into the driveway 15 minutes early from his meeting. He knew. Connor grabbed the most crucial evidence, the video, Keisha's journal entries, and the photographs, and shoved them into her jacket. Patricia was already moving toward the front of the house. Go, Patricia whispered. I'll stall him. Connor heard Williams' voice at the front door. Patricia. Why is Detective Connor's car in our driveway? She slipped out the back door just as Williams' footsteps pounded up the stairs toward his bedroom. Her heart hammered as she sprinted toward her car, the evidence burning like acid in her jacket. Behind her, she heard Patricia's voice, calm and steady. Robert, we need to talk. Connor's phone buzzed with a text from Patricia, sent copies to FBI Field Office Atlanta. Check your email. Patricia Williams had just saved Connor's life and possibly her own. But as Connor drove toward the county line, Unit 1 appeared in her rearview mirror, gaining fast. Williams wasn't going to let her leave Millbrook County alive. The chase lasted 12 minutes and covered 8 miles of winding country road. Williams tried to ram Connor's car twice, his cruiser's engine more powerful than her sedan. But Connor had something Williams didn't, nothing left to lose. She made it to the state police barracks just as Williams' cruiser pulled into the parking lot behind her. Connor stumbled out of her car, evidence clutched against her chest, and found herself face-to-face with FBI agent Maria Santos, Patricia's contact at the Atlanta field office. Detective Connor. We've been expecting you. Williams climbed out of his cruiser, his hand resting casually on his weapon. Agent Santos, there's been a misunderstanding. Detective Connor has been experiencing some mental health issues. Sheriff Williams, Agent Santos interrupted, you're under arrest for ending the life of Keisha Martinez and the exploitation of minors. The color drained from Williams' face as federal agents swarmed his position. You have the right to remain silent. 6 months later, Connor stood in a federal courtroom as the jury foreman read the verdict, guilty on all counts. Robert Williams was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for taking Keisha Martinez's life, plus additional sentences for child exploitation, conspiracy, and abuse of power. The FBI investigation had uncovered a network of corruption that reached deep into Millbrook County's power structure. But justice came with a price. Patricia Williams had filed for divorce and relocated with her sons to another state, her life destroyed by her husband's crimes and her own knowledge of them. She'd testified against Williams, her voice steady but her eyes hollow as she described years of willful blindness. 3 other families finally had answers about their missing daughters. Williams led investigators to the locations where he'd disposed of their bodies, hoping for a plea deal that never came. Each grave site brought closure and fresh agony to families who'd spent years wondering. Elena Martinez attended every day of the trial, clutching a photograph of Keisha in her cap and gown. After the verdict, she approached Connor in the courthouse hallway. Mija, she said, tears streaming down her weathered face, my Keisha can rest now. Thank you for not giving up on her. Connor was promoted to detective lieutenant and transferred to the state police major crimes unit. She kept Keisha's photograph on her desk, not the crime scene photos, but a picture Elena had given her of Keisha at her quinceañera, radiant in a pink dress, her whole future ahead of her. But late at night, when Connor walked to her car after long days investigating other cases, other victims, she sometimes wondered about the anonymous texter who'd started her down this path. They'd never identified the source of those crucial tips. The truth, Connor suspected, was that Keisha Martinez had friends she'd never known about, people who'd loved her enough to risk everything to see justice done. In a county where power had protected predators for too long, someone had finally decided enough was enough. The Millbrook County Sheriff's Department was disbanded and absorbed into the state police. The courthouse where Williams had once commanded respect now bears a small plaque in the lobby in memory of Keisha Martinez and all victims of abuse of power. Connor still gets letters from other victims, other families who've heard her story and found the courage to speak up. Each case reminds her why she became a detective in the first place, not for glory or recognition, but for 16-year-old girls who deserved better than they got. Some nights, when the wind is right, Connor swears she can hear Keisha's voice on the breeze. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for making sure I wasn't forgotten. In Millbrook County, the white police cruisers are gone forever. But Keisha Martinez's memory ensures that no badge will ever again be a license to destroy young lives. Justice, Connor learned, isn't always swift. But sometimes, if you're willing to risk everything for the truth, it's inevitable. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Have you subscribed yet? Don't miss our next case. Hit the like button if you're still watching, it helps us a lot.